is very important also in pagan milieu or pagan scenes and play important role for creating identities. And of course, as it was said before, creating of identities is closely connected with creation or constructing of the others. I would like to speak, as it was also mentioned in the speech of Michael Strmiska, about positive and negative others. For example, positive others for that pagan black metal scene is black metal scene from Scandinavia or pagan black metal scene from Eastern Europe. And negative others from the point of view of pagan black metal scene in Czechia is Christianity, for example, which I would like to focus more in one slide. In this book, there is also a chapter by Dina Winstein, and it is dedicated directly to pagan metal. And Winstein also describes there that in pagan metal we can find all main contemporary branches of paganism. It means Slavic, Nordic, Celtic, and Wicca or witchcraft. What can be what is a characterization of pagan metal? Or that there is also folk metal. I know that there can be discussion about the limitation of both styles, but in general we can find in both styles fascinating for nature, landscape, of course paganism, pagan past, and mythology. The important topic there is also battles, pagan battles, and many bands styled themselves as pagan warriors. Of course, inspiration is folklore, and a lot of bands use folk instruments and of course local languages, which is also the case in Czech pagan black metal scene. I would like to also mention that black metal is one of the extreme metal genres, is one of the main source or roots of pagan and folk metal. For me, in this presentation, pagan metal will be pagan black metal will be pagan-oriented black metal, and of course there are important influences from black metal, such as anti-Christianity, and also, for example, misanthropy, which is also the core of black metal. So we can find these aspects also in pagan black metal. It can be said that for some bands, the pagan black metal was only a period or some transforming phase between black metal and pagan metal or directly folk metal, which is more oriented to using folk instrument and folk topics. So let me continue with another slide, which is dedicated to the origins of Czech pagan black metal scene and next stages. The beginnings of Czech pagan black metal scene is connected with influence of second wave of black metal, mainly from Norwegian. Maybe you know bands like Mayhem, Burzum, Immortal, and others. And this influence also includes some pagan elements in that black metal music, and some bands explicitly shifted from satanic to pagan discourse, and it was also recognized in in the end of 90s in Czech environment, and then started some bands with black metal, with pagan discourse within black metal. I also created some quotation, or this is screen from one article from the web of one Czech pagan group, Pagan Circle, and in this quotation is described that around the mid of 90s some far-right skinheads try to be more interested in pagan mythology and paganism, and in the same time some black metal fans also did this let's say exploration and try to be more oriented and interested in paganism. And in that quotation he also mentions that far-right skinheads and some black metal fans connected based on the interest on paganism. And what is also important to mention as also another positive influential is influence from Eastern Europe and pagan black metal scene from Poland, Ukraine, and Russia. For example, there were bands like Nocturnal Mortum in Ukraine, Temnozor in Russia, and many others. And it is important also to say that this scene started to have a tendency to far right, or partially, not all scene, as I will also mention. But it influenced also the forming scene in Czech Republic, and the far-right influences was really visible after the beginning of new millennium, and let's say till the second decade when the scene started to decrease a little bit. Despite there is still high popularity of pagan or folk metal. In Czech case, for example, Silent Stream of Godless Elegy has some elements, but it is doom folk metal band, not a black metal band. But the scene pagan black metal decrease after the second decade of millennium. By the way, I included also some photos which are from my field research in 2010 when I attend some concerts, and this is from concert of Nocturnal Mortum and Heldentod, and as you can see in that time there was a really mix of let's say black metal heads and far-right skinheads in that concerts. It's need to be also said that these far-right inclinations I think in Czech Republic decrease also, and a lot of bands also in Ukraine and other countries distanced after that from neo-Nazism, such as Ukrainian band Nocturnal Mortum. So let's move to another slide, and I would like to speak briefly about one example, which is Inferno, the band which is really famous currently also, not only in Czech black metal scene, but around the world as a let's say orthodox black metal band. It was founded in 1996, and they started with let's say satanic discourse in the beginning with their demo Hello on Earth, and by the influence, as I mentioned before, they also switched to the pagan discourse within their art. But they did shift again after the new millennium, and currently it is a band which is left-hand pad oriented, which means it is, let's say, esoteric black metal band which is really interested in occultism and left-hand band, not only as a team for the art, but personally they are involved in that milieu. But there was a phase which started in the beginning of millennium with album Duch slovanské síly, and also the second album and the next one was influenced by paganism. The mostly first one, which explicitly has pagan discourse in that. And what was the important features of Inferno lyrics was really militant anti-Christianity, blasphemy, patriotism, nationalism in that time, and in the beginning of the new millennium in 2001 there was also one controversial interview where one of the members glorify say pagan culture, but also he stated that he's for white Europe. So that there were this kind of tendency in the beginning, and of course in the discourse that there were another topics connected with pagan topics. Glorifying pagan roots and Slavic power and proudness, and it can be seen also in the lyrics pagan swords, which you can see on the right, but it is in Czech, but of course there is a militant pagan discourse that they will fight again killers of our nation, and the fate of our nation will be held by fire of our ancestors. And there is also mentioned the power and proudness and connections with Czechness. So yeah, that was example of say nationalistic pagan discourse in their lyrics. Of course, what I also mentioned in the beginning, there was a influence from black metal mirrored in misanthropy and criticism of contemporary society and culture. 5 minutes, so I don't have much time. The culture is seen as really degenerated, and Inferno is really against masses and current society and culture. So it is one example, and the second one is a Trolech, which is a little bit different, and I would like to contrast with Inferno with Trolech a little bit. It was founded in 1999, and they created a whole mythology and Asian empire full of forests and beings like gnomes, and this is empire named Trolech, and it is outside of influence of modern world. What is explicitly visible there is really sacralization of the nature. It can be seen in the lyrics on the right. They are speak about beauty of forest, and they also said every tree is my friend, every creature is my friend, and yeah, they speak about woods and stones and something like that as something sacred. And what is interesting is that it is not explicitly anti-Christian in the lyrics, but in the interview with for example, Morbivot, one member, we can also find anti-Christian statements. What is also important is that there was conflicts within the scene regarding far-right orientations, and the Trollech was the band who was against the trend to inclinate to far right, which was visible in the scene in that time. So in one interview, he also mentioned that he's against NS, which means National Socialistic, and no Slavonic power, which was connected in that time with, let's say, racistic orientation of black metal with Slavic discourse, such as Inferno. So there were also other examples and other bands which can be mentioned. For example, Adultery, which transformed to Vesna, Ogmias, Žrec. For example, Žrec was Slavic oriented, and some members are or were practicing Slavic pagans. There were also other bands, Panichida, Hayden, Dark Seal, and some of them moved to another genres. For example, Hayden started in the similar music genre as Trollech, but after some milestones, they moved to, let's say, melancholic rock or something like that. So yeah, I have also one slide about the anti-Christianity. There is a part of the text from Dark Seal about Christianity, which is seen as a plague, spread lies and killing, and yeah, there is also the revenge of pagan warriors against that in reference to Celtic ancestors. So, yeah, I see I have only 1 minute, but I will quick. The critique of Christianity is based on the arguments that Christianity destroyed pagan world, connection with ancestors, and harmony with the nature. That there is often mentioned Inquisition violence in the Middle Ages, hypocrisy and weakness also of Christianity. And Christianity is seen not as a religion, a separated religion, but as a basis of modern culture and society, and criticism of that pagan black metal bands are also based on this view on this society. So if they criticize Christianity, they also criticize culture and society. By the way, I also did some research, few few years ago about church burning, and it was visible some pagans were radical in that, and they see as a violent acts based on pagan ideology and connected with the second wave of black metal. Yeah. One slide, please. As I mentioned, influential others, I would like to also mention the connections to Ukrainian scene. And there was one beneficial concert in Brno, and I also did interview with organizer, and he did this concert to help concrete Ukrainian bands and their family members. And what is also important, the organizers speak about the war against Ukraine and against yeah, and as a invasion. Yeah, so they set up this discourse that they are on side of Ukraine. So very very briefly, conclusion. Yeah, influential others were Scandinavian and Eastern Europe pagan scene, pagan metal and black metal scene. That there is still. Still militant anti-Christianity, but it is not so strong currently. As I mentioned, glorifying of paganism is also some opposition of postmodern world and society, sometimes seen as degenerated, and there were some tendencies of nationalism and far right, mainly in the beginning of the scene, and this scene identifies mainly Slavic, Nordic, and partially with Celtic paganism. So now I'm stopped. Thank you.